Hi, I'm Aleliana. Last Saturday night, I stood frozen as my own sister danced with my husband under fancy lights I'd paid for. People whispered around me like I was already gone. They thought I'd cry. They thought I'd beg. Instead, by morning, I was gone. And I took with me secrets they never knew I had. Secrets that don't just burn bridges, they destroy entire foundations. Before I start my story, let me know in the comments what time you're watching and where you're from. I read every comment. Now, let me tell you what really happened the night I walked away. The first thing I noticed was how everyone went quiet when I walked in. I entered the fancy hotel ballroom in Austin holding a small silver gift box with a blue ribbon. Inside was a bracelet I'd ordered specially for my sister Miss. A light blue stone in gold, her birthstone. It wasn't expensive, but it meant something. Like me. I wore our mother's old pearl pin on my simple navy dress. I hadn't bought anything new for this party. I almost didn't come, but something, maybe hope, maybe just habit, made me walk through those doors. The room was full of laughter and music, but conversations stopped for a second when I entered, then quickly started again, like nothing happened. "Hey, Aleliana," someone said without really looking at me. I nodded back. No one took my coat. No one took my gift. I just stood there too long, holding that box until my fingers felt numb. I looked around for Miss, my sister, my only sister, my beautiful but dangerous sister. She was across the room, laughing under the chandelier. Cassian, my husband, stood next to her with his hand resting too comfortably on her lower back. I walked further in, found an empty spot near the drinks table, and took some water, not wine. Tonight, I told myself, I'd just smile, say congratulations, and leave early. No drama. That plan lasted only 10 minutes. The music slowed down. Someone announced a special dance for our beautiful bride-to-be. Miss turned, her sparkly dress catching the light. Cassian held out his hand to her, like it was the most natural thing, and she took it like she'd been waiting for this moment. They moved to the middle of the room under a soft spotlight. The music began. Frank Sinatra. "The Way You Look Tonight." A love song. They danced like they'd done it 100 times before. She leaned against his chest. He whispered something, and she laughed like a teenager. The kind of laugh that made everyone smile. People started recording with their phones. "They seem really close, huh?" Someone near me said. Then I saw it. The pearl pin. Not on my dress, on hers. My throat went dry. That pin. I'd given it to her last Christmas, not because she asked, but because she cried saying she missed Mom. I'd wrapped it carefully, told her it was a symbol to keep us connected. But Miss never cared about symbols. She only cared about taking things. I stood frozen, my hands tight at my sides. My heart wasn't racing. It was collapsing. Cassian looked at me. For a moment I thought he might step away, might feel even a little ashamed. But no. He smiled like he knew no one would stop him. He twirled her. Everyone laughed. Phones recorded. Every second. Someone behind me whispered, "Isn't that her husband?" Then came the toast. Miss stood by the stage with champagne in her hand. "Thank you all for coming tonight. To my amazing family, my wonderful fiancé, Cassian, you've been such an amazing support." Everyone clapped. No one looked at me. No one said my name. Not once. I left the gift box on a table. I didn't drink anything, didn't eat anything, didn't say goodbye. I walked out into the night with just my dress and a silence so loud it hurt. My ears. That's how I disappeared before they even cut the cake. That night, everyone thought I just went home. They had no idea I had a plan. I drove through the quiet Austin streets with steady hands, though nothing else felt steady. My phone kept lighting up. Cassian calling over and over. No messages, just calls. I didn't answer. I didn't even turn. My phone over. I just let it flash on and off like a weak signal from a man who knew he was in trouble but still acted surprised. The streetlights blurred as I drove past. I wasn't crying. I hadn't cried all night. It wasn't because I felt nothing. It was because I knew I needed to stay clear-headed until I was safe. But the images kept playing in my mind like a broken movie. her fingers on his chest, his hand too low on her back, his smirk, and that pin, that stupid pin, shining under the lights like it belonged to her. When I turned into my neighborhood, everything was quiet. My porch light was off. Cassian's truck wasn't in the driveway. Inside, everything looked normal. Too normal. I took off my shoes and put my purse on the table by the door. My feet hurt from the heels I'd worn. Walking down the hallway, I noticed his big travel bag was gone. Not his gym bag, but the larger one he used when we went to Arizona for our anniversary. And the drawer where he kept his spare car keys? Open. Empty. I put my keys down and checked my phone again, this time with purpose. One new voice message. Not from Cassian. From Miss I sat on the edge of the couch before playing it. Her voice was sweet and slightly slurred from champagne. You were never good enough for him, Elle. You were just the practice run. She giggled with music and glasses, clinking in the background. I mean, honestly, you saw us tonight. We finally don't have to pretend anymore. The message ended with someone calling her name, probably Cassian. I stared at the wall for a full minute. Then I forwarded her message to my work email and my backup storage. I also saved it to my cloud storage in a new protected folder called For Later. Standing up, I noticed how quiet the house was. Too quiet for a home with two people. I walked through the living room and down the hall to our bedroom. As soon as I opened the door, I knew. Half the closet was empty. His drawers were pulled open, some still hanging crooked and completely empty. His belts, socks, shirts, all gone. I checked the bathroom. His toothbrush was missing. The cologne I bought him for Christmas? Gone. Even the expensive razor he said was too nice to travel with? Gone too. No note. No text. Just emptiness, you. Could almost smell like something had been torn away too quickly. I went to my desk, opened my laptop, and checked our joint bank account. The number stared back at me. $43,000 withdrawn. Just 6 hours earlier. All at once. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I took out a notepad and made a list. Lock credit cards, freeze bank accounts, call lawyer, separate business. Assets, I paused on that last one. Business? I went out to the backyard, turning on the lights as I walked. The night air was cool with jasmine vines moving gently along the fence. The fire pit was still warm. That's when I saw them. Burned corners of papers sticking out between the logs, burned but not completely gone. I bent down and pulled one out. My business agreement, signed, official, mine. Another piece. My original product drawings, still barely visible through the burn marks. He hadn't just taken the money. He'd tried to erase my business too. This man had watched me work 16-hour days for 2 years straight. Watched me create prototypes, meet with lawyers, talk to investors. And now, without saying anything, he'd tried to burn it all to nothing. I stood up slowly. I didn't shake. I didn't cry. I went back inside, got a glass of water, and sat at my desk. I opened a folder on my computer called Insurance. It asked for a password. I typed it in. Inside were copies of every contract, every email, legal agreements, recordings, time-stamped photos, lists of investors. A folder labeled Miss June. I'd gotten into the habit of saving everything after he accidentally deleted my files the second time. The night felt heavy, but my chest felt calm, settled, like something deep had shifted. I had let them rewrite my story once, but this time I would be the one writing the ending. The next morning, I didn't cry. I got to work documenting everything. I had slept maybe 2 hours. When the sky started getting light around 5:30, I was already in the kitchen, standing at the window, watching the clouds turn pink. My coffee sat untouched. It had gone cold long ago. The house felt empty, not just because his things were gone. The silence seemed to echo inside me, like something buried for years was finally breaking free. My phone buzzed on the counter. I didn't look at it until it stopped. One message from my mother. Did you cause a scene, Eleliana? Not, are you okay? Not even, what happened? Just, did you embarrass the family? It was so typical I almost laughed. but there was nothing funny about it anymore. I deleted the message, but the memories came anyway. I remembered being 12, spending weeks building a working wind turbine for the science fair. Miss came into my room the night before judging and asked if she could help with final touches. The next morning, she arrived early with my project, but with her name on it. She won first place. I stood watching her get the medal. She never even looked at me, or when we celebrated my high school graduation at a restaurant, and my father raised his glass to toast Miss for always making the family proud, even though it was supposed to be my night. His excuse? Miss just presents herself better. Every achievement that should have been mine had been taken, blurred, or stolen completely. And I'd told myself that being the bigger person was noble. That being humble was good. That loving someone, even when they don't, love you back still matters, maybe it does, but it doesn't protect you. Because last night wasn't the first time Miss had crossed the line with Cassian. I'd seen the signs at our engagement party. She'd brushed an eyelash from his cheek. I'd caught her fixing his tie before I could reach him. And I remembered how she looked at me when I noticed, like I was in the way, and I, foolishly, desperately, had believed her smile was just friendly, just family being close. I'd told myself I was just being sensitive, that I was seeing things that weren't there. Cassian had said so too. But sitting on the bed that morning, I remembered something else, a therapy session from about a year ago. I'd been completely exhausted, and my friend had made me talk to someone. The therapist had asked me, "Eleliana, do you feel invisible in your own marriage?" I'd laughed it off at the time. Now those words stuck to me like fog on glass. Not just invisible, but erased. In my mind, I replayed Miss whispering to Cassian on the dance floor. He'd laughed. She'd smirked. It seemed meaningless then. Now it reminded me of our honeymoon, when I had whispered to him the same way, and he'd called it the most special moment of our trip. What else had she copied? What else had she stolen? The clock showed 7:12 a.m. I got up, took a deep breath, and opened my laptop. Emails had come in overnight. A few from my assistant, some updates from suppliers. One marked important, forwarded at 2:34 a.m. It was from my assistant, Lydia, with the subject, "You didn't approve this, did you?" I opened it. The message she had forwarded was from Miss, but sent using my name, my business email. The signature was copied, almost perfect, except for a tiny mistake in my middle name. But the change was clear. It was a revised contract for one of our key business partnerships. Instead of sending payments to my company, it sent them, secretly, to a company owned by Miss. It had been sent to the legal department just hours before the engagement party. This wasn't just petty. This was theft. Calculated. Cold. Done with. Confidence because she thought I was too soft, too blind, too loyal to ever notice. I stared at the time, 4:48 p.m., before she even walked into that ballroom wearing my pin. Before she danced with my husband in front of everyone I thought cared about me. She already thought she had won. But here's what happens when you underestimate someone like me. You think silence means weakness. You think forgiveness means defeat. But I had something Miss never did. Memory, evidence, and time. I wasn't just a betrayed wife. I was a target who knew how to fight back. The morning felt sharp, focused. I wasn't a victim anymore. I was becoming someone they should have feared all along. I didn't waste time feeling sorry for myself. I made calls. Quiet, important calls. First to my bank, accounts frozen, then to my lawyer, documents being drawn up, then to a digital security expert, evidence being preserved. By noon, I had locked Cassian out of our accounts, secured my business assets, and documented every forged signature, every unauthorized transfer, every accidental deletion he'd ever claimed. Then I called my grandfather's old friend, a retired judge who'd always warned me to keep receipts. He didn't ask questions. He just listened as I laid out the facts. "They didn't just betray your trust, Eleliana," he said finally. "They committed fraud. This isn't just personal, it's criminal." I felt something shift inside me. Not anger, not sadness, but clarity. Pure, sharp clarity. That afternoon, while Miss was posting engagement photos and Cassian was probably wondering why his cards were declined, I was quietly gathering everything: bank records, security footage from our home showing him stealing, files, backups of emails where both of them discussed taking control of my company. Then I waited. 3 days later, my phone rang. Cassian's name flashed on the screen. I answered without speaking. "What did you do?" His voice was tight, angry, not apologetic, not ashamed, angry that his plan was falling apart. "I didn't do anything," I said calmly. "I just undid what you did. This isn't funny, Liliana. I need access to those accounts now." "Those accounts? You mean the ones you emptied? The business you tried to steal? Or do you mean my personal accounts that you never should have touched in the first place?" Silence. "You were careless," I continued. "Both of you. You thought I wouldn't notice, wouldn't fight back. You took my kindness for weakness." "We need to talk about this," he said, his voice lower now. "Just you and me." "No," I replied. "We don't. Anything you want to say, you can say to my lawyer." I hung up and blocked his number. An hour later, Miss called. I let it go to voicemail. This is ridiculous. Whatever you think happened, you're blowing it out of proportion. Call me back so we can fix this mess you're creating." I didn't call back. Instead, I forwarded her message to my lawyer, another piece of evidence showing her dismissive attitude, her attempt to make me doubt my own reality. By the end of the week, everything had changed. My lawyer filed paperwork showing the attempted fraud. The board of my company received documentation of Cassian and Mrs. scheme. Our joint assets were frozen pending investigation, and I sent one email to everyone who had been at that party. Short, simple, with attachments. "I believe you deserve to know who you were really celebrating that night." Attached were the recordings, the forged documents, the stolen funds. No commentary needed. Within hours, Mrs. phone was blowing up. Her perfect engagement was crumbling as people realized what had really happened. Friends started calling me, apologizing for not seeing what was happening. I didn't answer most of them. This wasn't about getting sympathy now. It was about truth. A month later, I walked into a boardroom in downtown Austin. Cassian sat at one end, lawyers flanking him. Miss wasn't there. She'd fled to her parents' vacation house after the scandal broke. This was supposed to be a settlement discussion. Cassian thought we were negotiating. I wasn't there to negotiate. His lawyer spoke first. "My client is willing to consider a fair division of assets, given the length of the marriage." I smiled. Not warm, not friendly, just aware of something they weren't. "There's nothing to divide," I said calmly. The lawyer frowned. "Ms. Hemlock, with all due respect, the accounts your client emptied, already refilled, with interest, by court order. The business he tried to steal, fully secured with new protections. The reputation he tried to damage, restored." I opened my folder and slid 3 documents across the table. This is a court order showing his fraud. This is a restraining order, keeping him away from me and my business. And this is a letter from the district attorney considering criminal charges. Cassian's face went white. "You tried to erase me," I said quietly. "But all you did was show me exactly who you've always been." I stood up, gathered my things, and walked toward the door. Just before leaving, I turned back. "Oh, and Cassian, the pearl pin Miss was so proud to wear? It wasn't even the real one. Mom's actual pin has been in my safe deposit box for years. What I gave Miss was a replica, because I always knew, deep down, that she would take anything that mattered to me. Good luck to both of you." I walked out, chin up, back straight. They danced like I wasn't there. Well, now I was the one pulling the floor out from under them. Today, 1 year later, my business has doubled in size. I've launched a foundation helping women recover from financial abuse. And I've found peace. Not because I forgot, but because I finally stood up for myself. Miss eventually sent an apology letter. I read it once, then filed it away. Cassian moved abroad, his reputation in tatters. And me? I still wear my mother's real pearl pin sometimes. Not as a reminder of what I lost, but of what I found. My voice, my strength, and the knowledge that being kind doesn't mean being a doormat. Sometimes the best revenge isn't making a scene. It's disappearing quietly, planning carefully, and returning, stronger than anyone ever thought possible. The people who tried to erase me, they're the ones who ended up being forgotten.